What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Hope you're all doing well. I wanted to do a follow-up to a previous video where I gave you 5 tips to get better at Valorant, especially in the lower, like bronze, silver tiers. I'm back today to give you 5 more tips. These are 5 things that I've learned over the last, almost year of playing Valorant, things that I've picked up. I'm excited to show you guys what these are and get a chance to dive into them. So let's check it out. Alright, so number 1 is going to be I'm going to call it the period communication tab. The last video I talked about a few different ways that you can communicate with your teammates. If you're a little reluctant, or maybe you're not quite as outgoing and don't want to hop on your microphone, there are some ways that you can communicate with your team. One that I didn't cover last time is if you hit the period button on your keyboard, that's the default, you could obviously map that someplace else, it'll bring up a list of commands that you can pick from, yes, no, going here. It's just a variety of things that your character will actually say for you to communicate with your team. Really recommend using it, right? It's another one of those little things where, again, you don't have to get on a mic, you don't have to talk to your teammates, but if you go make that little extra effort to let them know what you're doing, you can play more as a cohesive unit and you'll play better as a team. And that's just better for everybody. While I was editing this video, I actually remembered one other thing to kind of add to this period communication point. If you press and hold comma on your keyboard, you will actually pop up a wheel where you can pick some of those same comms as well. There's some mouse clicks that can expand your options and choices of what you want to say. So there are another option as well, but it's kind of tied to the same thoughts. Press period, hold down comma. You can remap those to someplace else on the keyboard as needed. So check that out. All right, tip number 2. This is something that honestly, until a few months ago, I was not paying that close of attention to. When you're in the buy menu, when you're purchasing pre-round, up on the top left corner of your screen, there is a min money next round. So based on everything that you've purchased to that point, the amount of money you have, and the minimum amount of money you can earn in a round, it's telling you how much money you'll have next round. This is really vital in watching your money output, econ rating. So make sure that you're maximizing that as best you can and communicating with your team when you need to buy, when you can buy someone else. I really didn't pay attention to this. I was always kind of like, well, I guess I'll see how much money I have next round. I don't know how I missed it. So I'm guessing that there are other people out there that have missed it as well. So check out that minimum money projection and use it to your advantage. All right, so number 3, we're going to talk about guns. While the Vandal and the Phantom and the Operator all are certainly kind of the meta weapons and have their place, I'm not necessarily going to say you should use the Vandal, you should use the Op. I'm not going to lock you into that. What I am going to say is use guns that you're comfortable with. And primarily, don't get pushed into buying something because a teammate says that, that's what you should buy and that's what you should use. Personally, I'm not overly comfortable with the Marshall, and I'm probably never going to purchase it in a competitive match because I just know I'm not going to play well with it. I have a buddy who's really good with the Ares. The Ares certainly isn't, the best of the weapons that are available, but he plays really well with it. It fits his playstyle, it fits his skill set. So that's my recommendation, is go into some matches of gun game or go into some matches of the new mode, Escalation, play with the guns, force yourself to use them and figure out which ones you like and which ones you don't. I think I will always lean slightly towards the Phantom over the Vandal. My skill set, I'm able to snap body, and I'd rather get several shots off accurately towards the body than one quick headshot. The Vandal clearly has that trait and is probably superior in some ways, but I'm more comfortable with the Phantom. I feel like I do better with it. So that's my recommendation, is make sure that you purchase a weapon that you're comfortable with and don't get bullied by toxic players in chat making you feel like you need to buy something that's outside of your comfort zone. Stick to your guns, literally, and buy the gun that you're most comfortable with. All right, number 4, obviously each person is going to have their preference as far as which character that they want to play. So tip number 4 specifically, though, is going to be play your character's role. If you pick Sage, Don't be aggressive on defense and push out through the entry array wide away and peak angles. Sage, as a healer, as a support class, play back a little bit, play more conservative. Your heal and your res super is going to be more useful later in the round. If you're dead in the first 10 seconds of every round, you're not helping your team. Play within your character's role. It's also important to keep in mind which side you're on, whether you're attacking or defending. I've watched a lot of players think, oh, I'm Reyna, I'm an initiator, and I need to push out on defense. That's not necessarily the case. You can still use your initiator abilities to initiate fights and control, the narrative of how that fight goes, but do it in a more defensive manner. Just make sure that you're playing within the role of your character, don't overextend yourself, and make sure you're using those Viper Balls in ways that are productive. Blocking your teammates' vision off on defense is not helpful to the rest of your team, and so just be mindful. When you're using your abilities, it's impacting people around you as well. Make sure it's always helpful. One last part with play your character's role is don't pick a character that is very out of your comfort zone. If you are a more defensive player and you want to play back, don't pick Reyna or Phoenix or somebody who you're not going to be able to maximize their abilities as an initiator. Conversely, I mentioned Sage earlier. Don't pick Sage if you want to be really aggressive. Pick an aggressive initiator type character. Just know your skill set, know your role, and know how you want to play, and pick characters that fit accordingly. And number 5, the last one that I want to really kind of touch on in a very vague sort of way is don't keep trying the same thing over and over again. Now, I wrote this tip down and I initially thought about it in this way. If you have peaked, the middle angle on split and gotten opt the last 2 rounds, maybe you shouldn't do that this time. If you've pushed through the garage doorway on split and have gotten picked off the last few rounds, maybe don't try that this time. From a negative sense, don't keep doing the same thing, especially if it's not going well. I'm a prideful person as well, and I know I get wrapped up in this. Is like, no, I'm going to get that guy this time. You're not helping your team. Don't get wrapped up in this little infighting and these little fights within the match. Make sure you're putting yourself in a position to win the round. That's what matters. It doesn't matter if you push out and kill him this time or not. Alternatively, if you used a strategy that worked really well, maybe you should switch it up. Keep the enemy team on their toes. This is obviously primarily a attacker's mindset. If you attacked A site, and it was really successful last time that you did it, maybe don't attack A again. Maybe throw them off, go to B. Keep varying your strategy. Vary the angles that you peak, where you use your abilities, the timing of how quickly you're, dropping your smokes or your blinds. Switch up how you're doing it, especially things like Reyna's orb. If you are dropping her blind orb out into the same, head level or higher, or lower space every single time, the team is going to adapt to where you like to drop your orb, and they're going to be aiming, or more likely to be ready to aim at where you've dropped that. Where if you're dropping it low, high, medium, and they're not sure where to be looking, you're going to catch them off guard. Same thing with Ray's grenades. If you grenade the exact same spot at the start of the round, your grenade's gone. And probably after the second or third round, if the other team is smart, they're not going to be standing there waiting for that grenade to just catch them by surprise the way that it maybe did on the first round. You don't need to keep doing the same thing every round. Humans are creatures of habit. Don't get me wrong. And I think there's a tendency to develop I'm playing this character on this map, and I'm just going to do the same thing that I always do. Switch it up. Focus on, putting some riffs on that, even if it's just changing when you time things, okay? Maybe you do the same blind, but you wait 10 seconds longer. Little things like that are going to keep the other team on their toes and maybe knock them back a step or two. That might be the difference in winning a match. All right, guys, so that is today's video. I gave you 5 more tips for Valorant. I hope you found these helpful. I hope they allowed you to kind of open your eyes to a few of the nuances. These aren't as, hard set rules. Don't do this, do that, but be mindful of how you're playing. Make sure you're fitting within your team and make sure you're playing the role that you need to on that team. So to recap those tips, we've got number 1, use the period communication. Another way to communicate with your team, for those that are maybe a little less socially inclined, you don't want to talk to people, that's okay. There are ways you can communicate with your team. Take advantage of them. Number 2, the minimum money projection. Make sure you're paying attention to that and making smart purchases, keeping that dollar amount in mind. Because if you really want to stay in line with your team and buy full armor and full Vandal or Phantom later in the game, make sure you're not overextending yourself earlier on. Maybe buy a light shield, things like that. Number 3, buy guns that you are comfortable with. Number 4, play within your character's role. And number 5, make sure that you are varying your strategy, varying your approach, and don't, especially when it's not going well, don't just keep banging your head against the wall and trying to force through something that's not meant to be in that match. I appreciate all the support, you guys. If you can drop a comment down in the comment section below, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all of the support I've had thus far. Just broke 200 subscribers, which is awesome, so thank you guys for all of the support. As a reminder, I am also over on Twitch. If you are able to come check that out, I do stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and would love to see you guys over there. Well, that's it for today's video, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.